Today on Political Excess, we're going to take a look at what's going on in Maine. It's not too often we get some polling for that state, so when it comes up, we've got to take a look at it. And a quick note, later on today is going to be the Iowa caucus. The plan is for a community live stream. We'll take a look at some of the poll results and then cover the results in Iowa. So let's get back to this Maine poll. It looks like this came out a couple days ago, and it's from Digital Research Inc. Now, this does say fall 2023, and obviously it's not 2023 and it's not fall anymore, but this is the best we've got. So let's see what the methodology is for this poll. It says this is with registered voters who live in Maine. We've got a 614 sample size, and about half of those were surveyed by phone and the other half were online. And this was between October and November of last year. And the results have been weighted with a 3.9% margin of error. So let's get into the meat of this thing. So we've got direction of Maine. 23% say they're on the right track. 41% say wrong track. And this shows you about a decade and a half of a timeline. It was pretty bad back in 2009 and 10. And there was a spike for Governor Janet Mills during COVID. But since then, it's really dropped off. And there's a good deal of dissatisfaction in Maine. Now, if we broaden that out nationally, take a look at this. Only 8% say we're heading in the right direction. And that is the lowest on here. The second lowest was in the previous poll back in last spring. That's unreal that it's down to single digits. 63% say we're on the wrong track. If you go back all the way to the beginning in 2009, that's interesting because that's when more voters said the state was heading in the wrong direction. But at the same time, those same voters said the nation was heading in the right direction. Sometimes voters and circumstances are complicated, but this is as simple as it gets. Almost nobody in Maine is satisfied at what's happening with the country. So what are the key issues for Maine voters? Well, the top issue looks like it's affordable housing, but that only tops out at 15%. It's kind of spread out between gun control, inflation, economy, homelessness, cost of living, cost of energy, and environment. Now, some of those things I think could be combined. There's also some issues lacking like crime or immigration, but it looks like housing is one of the top concerns for the state. Now, this next section, they isolate just to economic concerns. Cost of living tops out at 35%. Then down to 22 is price of oil and utilities. Then we've got inflation, cost of housing. Way down is economy in general, and incomes too low / not keeping up at 6%. Now, what about the economic outlook for this year? Well, it's dismal. 54% are predicting the economy will be worse. 29% say about the same. Only 13% say better. That's another case where the pessimism appears to dominate. Of course, there's a small partisan divide. 22% of Democrats are more likely to say the economy will improve over the next 12 months compared to just 8% of Republicans. Now, let's get into the local politicians. Governor Janet Mills, how's she doing? Well, she's pulling in a 46% approval rating, 37% disapprove. That's a net 9 positive rating, but it is down from her previous couple of ratings. Also, 76% of Democrats approve, while 22% of Republicans feel the same. How about in the U.S. House? Well, in the 1st Congressional District, that is the much bluer district, they have Shelley Pingree, and her approval rating is 37%, 26% disapprove. So she's net 11 positive, but these are far from the strongest ratings she's had. Now, what about the 2nd District? That's the district I think is more interesting. It's become much more Trump-friendly, but they do have a blue dog type of Democrat in the U.S. House. So Jared Golden, his approval rating is way down. It's only at 27%, 35% disapprove. So what happened here? Well, his support has declined dramatically among Democrats since the spring. Apparently, it went from 63 down to 34. Republicans, he's held steady, 26 down to 24. Now, that probably would be because of the Maine shooting that happened there. Gun regulations and gun control, that's going to be a topic that happens after an event like that. What about the state legislature? It's kind of an even split. We've got 32% approve, 34 disapprove. That's nothing too dramatic from the previous polls. Democrats do control the state legislature, and 45% of Democrats approve of it, while for Republicans, it's at 26. How about the U.S. senators? We've got Susan Collins, and her approval rating is at 36, 42% disapprove. That's a net 6% negative rating. That might not sound too great, but that's actually up in recent years. And back in her last re-election in 2020, it looked like she was headed for defeat. She was way down in the polls. I'm sure Maine is not the easiest state to poll, but they proved to be inaccurate. Collins pulled through. If she runs again, it could be a different story. Her approval ratings are not great, but how does she compare to their other U.S. Senator Angus King? Now, King is technically an independent, but he caucuses with the Democrats. His approval rating is better. He's at 42%, while 31% disapprove. However, if you look at the trend, his rating is actually down from recent years. So King is up for re-election this year. It looks like he's going into it in a weaker position than he's used to, but compared to Collins, you'd much rather be King. He has a net double-digit approval rating. What about some national figures? Well, we've got President Joe Biden. His approval rating is at 30%, 59% disapprove. That is the lowest since Biden took office. If you break it down by party, just 6% of Republicans approve of Biden, and at the same time, just 63% of Democrats do the same. So Biden is lacking with support from his own party. By election day, they could easily come around to him, but it's not going to be a good sign if you're not even pulling in 2/3 of your own party. They also poll Vice President Kamala Harris. Her approval rating is lower. It's at 24%, but her disapproval rating is also a little bit lower. It's at 55%. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but terrible numbers here for the Biden administration. Now, how about the head-to-head presidential matchup? Well, here it is. We've actually got a 1-point race. 36% go to Biden, 35% go to Trump, 19% are undecided, 10% say some other candidate. Now, as I just said, a lot of those undecideds could just be disgruntled Democrats that end up coming back home to Biden by election day, considering Biden won the state by 9 points at large in 2020. Only a 1-point lead at this point is concerning. Now, Maine also allocates their electoral votes by congressional district, and in that much bluer first district, Biden is substantially leading 43-27, but in the redder second district, it's almost the opposite. Trump is ahead 42-28, and with voters who do not identify with one of the two major parties, 34% would go for Trump, 25% would go Biden. And how about the overall satisfaction between this matchup? 62% are dissatisfied with Biden and Trump as the options. And there's a couple more questions on this poll. They ask about age limits for elected officials. There's strong support for that. 70% somewhat or strongly support those age limits. So that's what's going on in Maine. Now, the last thing we could do real quick is take a look at this pollster's reputation. So for that, we get on 538. Here it is, Digital Research, also known as Critical Insights. They've got a B/C rating. If we go down a little bit, we could take a look at the accuracy of their previous polls. Looks like it's kind of split evenly between Democrats and Republicans. But if we go down to the individual polls, this is not really recent data because the most recent poll they have is from 2012. So that's why I don't want to put much focus on this data. Some of these are closer, but a lot of them aren't really that close. Either way, that's the poll out of Maine. There's a lot there. Broad dissatisfaction for the way things are going. There's plenty of time left for Biden to turn things around, but somehow Trump is competitive in the state, even though there was that story where Trump's name was taken off the primary ballot. In the U.S. House, we'll have to see what happens with Jared Golden. They do have ranked choice voting there. That adds on another layer of complexity. Republicans have an opportunity this year to take out Angus King. It doesn't look like they're going to be capable of doing that, but I am going to leave it there. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this Maine poll? Do you buy it? Do you not buy it? How about Governor Janet Mills? And what about the 1-point race between Biden and Trump? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.